argument that the problem in this country, because I guess the balloon just blew over, as it were,
It
no pun
popped.
intended, is the biggest danger facing America is the increasing debt and deficit. What he will not tell you is that the deficit was cut by like $1.5 trillion over the past year, which is, again, if you were worried about these things, that's the direction you would want it to go to. A big part of that was also increased revenues that were unanticipated because the economy has been so gangbusters. But here he is trying to sound reasonable about this. But again, what are you going to cut?
And like many of you, I worry about a future that feels less secure than it should. A lot has changed in recent years. Our southern border was once secure. Now the number of illegal immigrants who cross our border in just 2 years easily exceeds the population of 25 states. Americans are getting hammered by high prices. Today, nearly 2/3 of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make ends meet. Meanwhile, China is infiltrating our culture, our farmland, and our skies because they see us as weak. This is not sustainable. But of all the dangers we face, the greatest threat to our future is our national debt. You deserve the truth. So let's start with the facts. Our national debt is high, too high. And the problem is getting worse, not better. We are now $31 trillion in debt. That is more than the size of the entire American economy, 20% more. Our debt is now a greater burden than it has been at any time since World War II. If we continue down this path, in the next 10 years, we will spend over $8 trillion just on interest. That's more than the entire federal budget this year by a lot. That is neither affordable nor sustainable. When debt is too high, inflation is the result. That is where we are today. Inflation has exploded. Mortgage rates have doubled. Working Americans, after inflation and taxes, have gotten a pay cut.
All right, okay. So mortgage rates have doubled, not because of inflation. They have doubled because the Fed essentially doubled them.
Yeah.
By raising rates on banks. The debt, it really is sort of stunning. Here, put this up on there. I mean, this is like I IM'd it to you. This is the sort of like ridiculousness of this. If you look at where the biggest jump in the debt, if they really were concerned about it, the biggest jump in the debt came in 20, from 19 to 20, presumably because of COVID. But I remind you, it was under Republican rule. The debt also creeps up 16 to 19. It goes up $3 trillion. I mean, the idea that this debt problem is in any way unique to the Democrats is just absurd. It really is not, in my estimation, a problem. It just not. There's no indication. We were told back in 2008, frankly, that the debt, if the debt got to a certain ratio of GDP, it would crash our economy. And it simply hasn't happened. This is money that we largely owe to ourselves. It is just a number on a balance sheet that fundamentally does not impact people's real day-to-day experiences. It just doesn't.
And if they're concerned about it, we can repeal the majority of the Bush tax cuts that were made permanent.
And the Trump
Last
tax.
time.
And the Trump tax.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
that too.
That would do a whole lot to reduce the deficit.
We could reduce the deficit and ultimately start to cut into the debt by doing that. In fact, we don't need to stop and just repealing those. We can raise taxes significantly. And personally, I think we don't necessarily need to do it for the debt, but if it makes the deficit and debt smaller and makes the Republicans feel a little bit more at ease with things, I think we should go back to where we were in terms of the taxation scheme that we had in the 1950s in this country when men were men.
Yeah.
And
The tax rate was 90%.
and the tax rate was 90% for every dollar over, in today's dollars, what would be $3 million. So if you make $3 million or you make $3,500,000, first $3 million is subject to whatever the 35% tax rate. And then that $500,000 that you make after that, you get to keep $25,000 of it.
Yeah. That it's just a way to nullify their debt argument, because whenever they bring that up, and they only bring it up when Democrats are in charge of the White House, it's a way to stave off any conversation about confiscatory taxation.
Yep. Actually, let me just say correct that. You get to keep $50,000 of that $500,000.
Very nice.
So there you go.